Hello again, you glorious asynchronous undergraduates. Today we've got to talk about one of the major projects for this semester. You may notice that on the syllabus it said it was supposed to be due on October the 12th or something crazy like that. I don't remember. I just looked at that and thought, there's no way they're going to be ready to turn that in. So just for the record, the due date on today's thing, the Learning Theorist Poster, is actually going to be on October 31st. So you have the entire month of October to make this thing happen, which I think is probably about right. But I am going to talk you through it today, show you where to find everything on Brightspace, and also maybe look at a couple of examples of what these come out like, so that you sort of know how this assignment should go. So if you go to the table of contents over here in your Brightspace and you scroll down, you're going to find this little section called Learning Theorist Posters. And it has in it some things that will be very useful for you. Some of these documents here are past projects from other classes that were pretty good, that I want you to be able to take a look at and use as examples. And then there is a link to a list of learning theorists that you can choose from for this assignment. It will all make more sense in just a moment. So let's go to the actual assignment. If you go under assignments, you will show up to a place where you will find the rubric and also the template to use. So we're going to start with the rubric right now. All right. So one of the things we, in my opinion, don't get to do enough of in this class is talk about some of the learning theorist people who have shaped the way we think about educational psychology. They get mentioned in passing in some of the chapters, but rarely do we get to actually focus on what they're thinking. So I'm gonna kind of walk you through this a little bit. It says some things that are old that I haven't edited yet, so I will point those out as we go. So normally if this were an in-person class, this would be done as a group. However, you guys will be doing this individually, because I have no idea how I would group you asynchronously, so never mind the group. Each individual will be assigned a learning theorist. I'm actually going to let you choose for yourself. Either one that we've discussed in class or one that is relevant to educational psychology in general. So these might be guys like Piaget, Vygotsky, Bloom, Gardner. There's a whole lot of them to choose from, so you'll have many, many options. And then each individual, that should not say group, will create a digital poster. It's a slideshow, basically, that summarizes that theorist's perspective, what it is that they thought about education, and a little bit about how that gets used in modern education today. So, and then it says you're going to submit your poster to a shared folder on Sakai, whatever that is. It's going to be Brightspace, okay? You're going to submit your digital poster to Brightspace. We're not obviously going to get to present them because, this is an asynchronous class. But I do want to have them displayed so that other people can look at them. We'll actually talk a little bit more about that later. So feel free to get creative. I know you guys are mostly taking this class as an extra class and therefore are super, super busy. But do your best. We love graphics, we love videos, pictures, charts, anything you want to put in there that makes it look cool, as well as have the right information. Use your textbook, use the library, use the internet, any researches or resources you want to use to learn more about the person you choose. But whatever sources you use, be it the textbook or a website, you're going to want to cite for me. We'll get into that a little bit more later. So here's what the rubric looks like. Your posters shall be graded on a scale of 1 to 3, 1 being, not so great, and 3 being, yay, you did it, you're totally getting an A, right? So, content accuracy. You need to tell me who your theorist is, clearly, accurately. Give me a little bit about, what the context was in the time that they worked. It gives you some examples there, is it, the time period, where they were, who they worked with, that sort of things. Background information, some dates and milestones, like they made this awesome theory that got published in 1865, and, right, just basic background info. So if you give me all of that, you will definitely get a 3. Content accuracy and theoretical perspective. Tell me, what was the theory that they came up with or stole from someone else and then added to? What was their theory? And tell me about it. Like, it could be the stages of the theory, or like the milestones, the ages of people that this would apply to, that sort of thing. So do that, you get a 3. Connection to classroom use. I need 3 descriptive examples of how that learning theory gets used in a classroom setting. So if you decided on, let's say, Howard Gardner, and you were like, I want to do multiple intelligences, well, then you would come up with 3 examples of how a teacher might tailor activities in their class to work with the different kinds of intelligences, basically. Do that, you'll get a 3. Use of visuals. My goodness, please do not turn in a slideshow that is nothing but words. I might cry. I'm not kidding. Give me some visuals. I like graphics. I like videos, even. I like, pictures. Anything at all. Just so long as it's not a boring slide full of only words. I'm serious about the crying of boredom. And then citations. So any resources that you use, whether that's book, the library, resources, something from the internet, cite that thing for me. I want that either in MLA or APA format. I don't really care which one you choose. Either one is fine, so do your thing. And then please forget all about this one that says submission, because I didn't make this rubric, and I don't penalize you in your grades for having a late project. I just don't do that. So never mind this part that says submission, okay? I'm going to have to go back and change this at some point. I do not care. You're going to turn it in on Brightspace. If you need an extension, you're going to let me know ahead of time. I'm going to be like, okay, no big deal, right? And then we're going to move on. So don't worry about this. I will not be docking you points because you turn it in late. That is not the way I do things. Right? So that's the rubric. I will show you now the template that you have access to on Brightspace. It's a very boring template. As you can see, it's not a ton of slides. It's like 5. If you need more, take more. Totally fine. But this is the minimum right here. The bare minimum. So the first slide, of course, is just your title. And then when you get to background, just give me a little biographical summary of this person's life and education. We like pictures. We like citations. When you get to talking about their theory, right, here's what you put. How does it relate to learning? Pictures and citations. Classroom connections. Remember, it's 3 examples. Pictures. Citations. You're going to get really tired of me saying that. And then, of course, you've got this whole final slide where you can list all your citations. If you don't want to put citations on these slides, that's fine. Just make sure they end up here. Okay? So, this may sound like a big assignment, but it's really not that bad. Some of you are going to need more than 5 slides. Totally happy. All right? So that is your template. I will show you, let's see, we're going to pick we'll just pick one right now for you to see kind of how these turn out. All right, so here is one from a previous class on Jerome Bruner, who was a psychologist, not an educator. All right, so here's the background slide. Pretty straightforward. Tell me where he was born, where he studied, what he did for work. The next is his theoretical perspective. He came up with something called a theory of representation. And so we have the 3 stages of that. These are developmental stages he thought learners go through at certain ages. And just a brief explanation of the theory. Connections to the classroom. So basically they outlined how in each stage of representation, this is what students are doing in the classroom. Like an example of what students would be doing in the classroom, which was pretty great. They were like, hey, we need an extra slide for connections, so off they went. Brunner was the guy who came up with the term scaffolding, which you've probably heard about by now because it's in our textbook, right? So they talked a little bit about that. What does that mean? And gave some examples of it. Oh, look, they needed even more room for connection to the classroom. So here's another slide. I'm cool with that. Totally fine. So they demonstrate his idea of a spiral curriculum with this lovely little chart over here. And then boom, last page, references. All right, so that's one example of how this may look. Let's go back to, let's see. Let's go back a little bit to here. There is the list of learning theorists to choose from. If you take a look here, there's a bunch of guys you may or may not have heard of. Bandura, Bloom, we talk about Bloom a lot, Maslow, who totally stole his whole theory from Native Americans. Yeah, it's a thing. Just, yeah, if you do that one, you might want to look into where he got it from, because that's very interesting. Maria Montessori, some of you may have heard of Montessori schools. John Dewey, he's not just the guy who came up with the Dewey Decimal System. I know that's what you're thinking, but, you know, Piaget, all these people. You'll notice that most of these, with like one exception of Paulo Freire, are white people. And most of them are old, dead, white dudes. The unfortunate fact of the matter is that education has taken a lot of the stuff it does over the course of history from old white dudes. Should you not be feeling any of these, you know, these will tell you what it is they did and, you know, all that, so you can take a look at those links. Should you not be feeling, hello, the one woman, should you not be feeling any of these and you want to look into something else, like indigenous learning theorists? Yeah, you can totally find that, right? Native American pedagogies, indigenous epistemology. You can find that. It's totally a thing. You can do that. If you want to do black learning theorists, hey, there's a whole list of those too, right? Black women educational theorists, like lots of different places you could look. So if you're not feeling the old white guy thing, there are tons of other ones to look at. And let me encourage you to do so should you decide that's the way you want to go. Basically, you just have to pick one of these, or, as we said, a different one if you don't really feel this, if none of these appeal to you. Totally fine. Just someone who has a theory that may influence or has influenced education. That's all we care about, right? So, these are the ones that pretty much everybody learns about in an education class. Like, as an education major, you will learn about pretty much all of these. Everyone else, you may have heard of some of these. If you're a psychology major, you may have heard of some of them in a different context than education, because not all of them worked on educational psychology all the time. But yeah, any of these you may choose from, or pick a new one that is not on the list. Totally fine. All good. As long as you can do this little project right here based on that person and find the information you need to do this project based on that person. Okay, so I've already changed the due date in Brightspace. It now says it's due on October 31st. So keep that in mind. I probably will go back and change that date on the syllabus and re-upload it, but in case I forget, it's due on October 31st now. Right? If you have any questions about this, anything comes up, any problems, by all means, email me or ask for a Zoom meeting, and we will talk it over. Otherwise, I think you've pretty much got this. It's like 18 points in your grade. Shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so that is the Learning Theorist project. And now I shall move on to this week's lecture. Goodbye and good luck.